Hi everybody, how are you? Welcome to the live. I'll just wait for a few minutes until everybody starts coming in. Hello. We're just waiting for everybody to come in and then we'll start the live. There's a lot to talk about today. There's a lot to talk about. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. I hope you're having a good day. Hi, Margaret. Kiwi. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. We're just going to wait for people to come in. I hope you're enjoying your day. How's everybody doing today? I'll just give it a couple of minutes and then we'll start. So today we're obviously talking about, as everybody's seen the title, need to heal from our traumas. Healing is needed. Healing is vital. But yeah, we'll see. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. What's everyone been doing today? What has everybody been up to? Okay, everybody started to come in now. This is great. This is great. I'll give it 2 more minutes and then we're going to start the live. Yeah? Great. Has anyone had a fun day or wherever you are? What have you been up to? I think everybody knows I live in the UK. I live in the UK, so we're still kind of in lockdown here. So yeah, home all day. The weather's pretty naff over here. Okay, guys. I think I'm just going to start. So today we're talking about healing from our traumas. What I find is everybody who is African and probably wasn't born in Africa or was born in Africa, sometimes a little bit of a clash. And I think we all need to realize that if you were not born in Africa, if you were born in Africa, everybody's gone through traumas, everybody's carrying traumas, and everybody actually needs to heal. And the only way we can heal is together. And this is where we want to take the conversation today. If you agree, let me know. If you don't agree, let me know. We're having a discussion, so it'll be good to have a, hello, everybody from the US, everybody's coming in from different places. So yeah, we're just talking about trauma today because as everybody knows, we have lived in this skin and we are rarely given any appreciation or level of understanding of what you have to live with walking through the world with this skin. It is personal, it is emotional. Some people may get uncomfortable, but it's been uncomfortable living in this skin for many of us, you understand? And we have to learn how to deal with discomfort and stay in the room and stay in the conversations, which we are doing now. The more we have these kind of conversations, the better it is for us. So when we look at the fundamental premise of trauma and we understand the nature of trauma, we know that there are other groups that have been looked at, the ideology of their contemporary behavior based on multi-general trauma. One group is the Jewish Holocaust. Jewish families and the Jewish community is very clear on honoring that Holocaust, so much so that more movies will probably be made about it. What they are doing by making all these movies, all these content, is making sure that the future generations that come will never ever forget the Holocaust and its impact on Jewish people. But when it comes to looking at Africans and African people, there is this visceral response. Oh my God, come on. Why are you being so emotional? There's so much pushback when you talk about Africa, and we look at the legacy of slavery and colonization. You get so much pushback. But more importantly, why? Why is there so much pushback? The answer is, when we look at this, we peel back everybody's layers. Everybody gets naked in the room, and that's not comfortable. That is not always comfortable, but the conversations have got to happen. You can't have 246 years of trauma and expect nothing to happen. I understand that there are other platforms that continuously talk about the problems. Guys, the solutions are from us. We actually have to heal. If we don't heal together, the problems will continue and continue and continue, and trauma has got to be looked at. 246 years of trauma, and people expect nothing to happen, especially when that trauma was followed by more trauma, especially given that there was never a point of healing. There was never a point of healing. Everybody has been affected and infected by this thing. The elephant in the room needs to be addressed, because if we don't do so, none of us can heal. This is not a process we can do individually and say it's my journey on my own by ourselves. This is a collective process. We need to realize we've been impacted by historical generational trauma as people, generations of trauma with no intervention. Does anybody remember any type of mental health assistance to slaves or victims of apartheid or people who were being colonized? Does anyone remember anybody sitting in a therapy room and saying, I just sold off your son, I've just sold off your daughter, I've just raped some of your folks at any point? Never. After slavery and colonization was officially over, we were told you are now free. Does anyone remember any therapy then? Like the government or somebody coming and saying, you guys have been through so much. Here's some therapy. Did anyone say, oh, we know it's been rough, it's been difficult for you, let's do a group therapy for you? Does anybody remember that? Anybody in the chat ever heard of that? No, none of us have ever heard of that. Nobody has ever come and said, guys, after slavery and colonization officially ended, did trauma continue? Yes, the trauma continued. The math is hundreds of years of slavery and colonization caused trauma and no treatment. You are free, but you're experiencing more trauma with no treatment. What is the result? There is a residual impact of that trauma. It didn't end and it hasn't ended yet. We are still carrying those traumas, guys. We really are. African people are very, very resilient. We are a miracle. I genuinely believe we are a miracle. They've attempted to portray us as these sick and weakened people. On the contrary, we are unprofoundly resilient. We have done everything so far with no help and without the ability of having these conversations that we are having now. These conversations are finally happening. And on this channel, I will repeat, when I say African, I talk about anybody who lives in America, wherever you are, as long as you are of this melanated skin, you are African. On this channel, we don't do labels. We don't differentiate. You are an African child. We are all African children. There is no difference. We've gone through the same traumas. When you look at the individuals and families that survived slavery and colonization, that experience, they rear their children simultaneously struggling with their own psychological injuries. I'll give you we'll just take an example as mom has PTSD from seeing dad being sold, her sister getting raped, and so many other things she's seen, right? She has PTSD, and her symptoms are she has outbursts of anger, just seeing her life very shortened and seeing no future in her life. And she has this hypervigilance all the time. Now, maybe she has 2 or 3 babies that she has who didn't have the original trauma. But in the household, what is mom normalizing and teaching those children when she has those outbursts of anger, that whole, oh my God, there's no point of really living. My life is going to be so cut short. What is she normalizing and teaching them? This is social learning theory. The 3 babies didn't need to be there. If the mom is broken, they will be broken and you will be broken. And years later on in 2020, they start saying, oh, it's just their culture. That's just who they are. There is poison in the cookies. How are you going to get that poison out? You have to study the ideology of the behaviors. The behaviors of us as African people. There are certain behaviors that we as a people engage in worldwide. You could go to South Africa, you could go to Zimbabwe, you could go to America, you could go to Jamaica, you could go anywhere. There are certain behaviors that we as African people exhibit. And those are the things that we need to look at. We have those people who look black, but don't say that they are black. Before you even talk to them, they say, well, I have quite a bit of Indian in me. And all of a sudden, they're something else. They're not black. You look at people who watch rap videos, the girls are not black, they're black, but they're not too black, we love this self-loathing, this self-loathingness, it's deeply ingrained in us. We look in the mirror and a lot of people actually despise the reflection in the mirror. We are number one to celebrate the demise of our own brother or sister. If maybe a brother or sister hasn't done well in something, we are number one to call, oh my goodness, we rejoice in it. Self-loathing from head to toe, inside and out. Because why? They have taught us to hate everything about us. We were the other in their world. When they took our children, when they came to our lands, they said we were the other. We were not the norm. So we still see each other and ourselves as the other and not the norm. If you look back, many people were told oh, slavery's ended, colonization has ended, nations gained independence. In America, they told them, oh, slavery's ended. In the Caribbean, slavery has ended. And what they've done is, they've neatly sidestepped it in school curriculums, TV, broadcast media, if they want to portray us, they portray us in their own way. What we've done is we turned searing pain into self-loathing. If we ignore our history, it is at our own peril, guys. Nobody can come and save us. Our history is the only way out of this situation. A need to know about Africa before we were torn from its breast is not only normal, but it is a sign of a healthy intellect and a soul. But there's this need to soften our memory, just kind of move on from it. It's not that important. But our history should be an area of rigorous study and research. Do not soften your memories. We must return and claim our past in order to move forward into our future. Our mind is what we got to change. The mind is very powerful. It is a very, very powerful thing. We can talk and talk and talk about so many solutions. If the mind hasn't been changed, this mind has got to be decolonized. We will forever keep having these conversations because a lot of our brothers and sisters have not gone through that process. And even if they are, it is difficult. It is in understanding who we were that will free us to embrace who we are now. Many of us are not taught African history. Some have been taught to hate Africa. If everybody remembers that Malcolm X speech when he said they told you to hate your nose, they told you to hate your hair, they told you to hate Africa. And if they do teach you the African history, it all begins as slavery and colonization, with no Africa, there would be no civilizations in this world. Understand that if there was no Africa, there would be no civilizations. They came to Africa, saw technology. They were amazed at what they saw. Medicine started in Africa, but they want to tell you your people never contributed to anything in this society. It is a lie. Your ammunition is knowing who you truly are. Some of our people will even say, well, I'm not African, I'm this other label that was given to you to justify you in their lands. You understand? Some Africans born in Africa have actually moved to the diaspora and also don't want to be labeled as African. The world has brainwashed you into thinking being African isn't cool. It isn't a thing to flaunt amongst friends and people. Many of our people are caught up in trying to live like a white man or a white woman, thinking is like the epitome of class and higher level of life. They now have this little white person living inside of them, striving every day to be that Caucasian woman, be that Caucasian man. Guys, look at our art in Africa. It is like no other. Our culture is so rich. It intimidates people. It has intimidated people so much that they attempted to eradicate it just in case we ever learn or see our greatness, because they are afraid that if we see our greatness, all that they use us for will be gone. And remember this, we keep the economies going. Black people have a strong buying power, a very strong buying power. Our working power of nearly 300 years of free labor, God knows how many years of free labor, and ripping the continent of its resources has made them rich. Today, the African community is made up of individuals and families who share a certain anxiety and what psychologically they call them adaptive survival behaviors that have been passed down from generation to generation, and this is what we call PTSD. Is everybody enjoying the live? Everyone's just gone quiet. You can put some comments in the chat, guys. We can engage, we can engage. I'll give you an example. In the 1940s, in America, families frequently suppressed any sign of aggression, and this was going on. This type of behavior actually happened in a lot of our people. This suppression of aggression in children, particularly the male child. It was acceptable to severely beat an unruly boy so that he would never make the mistake of standing his ground with a white person in authority. We did this in Africa. We did this in America. We did this in the Caribbean. We did this worldwide as a people. We beat our children that you should never stand up to the white man. And what has that happened to us now? Now, as a history of people, we are known for beating our children. We learned those behaviors from the suppressors and the colonizers. They beat our own people into submission, and we started doing it. And to the level of some people, it is just pure violence towards their children. It is just violence in the home. Because why? People were traumatized. People who lived through slavery saw the overseers. They were beating people into submission, and you dare not raise your head. You dare not even challenge anybody. And what did we do? Out of frustration, yes, people were living through stressful conditions. People learned behavior. If you beat somebody, you beat them into submission. In colonization, it happened. They beat people into submission. Now, we as a people have taken that on, and we say, if you don't beat your children, oh, you are not truly a black person. Guys, we are taking and continuing the behavior of our colonizers, and we are just carrying through the generational traumas. This is very serious. We are just continuing their behaviors they gave us to say, you must beat somebody into submission. Research has also been done on other groups. We're not the only other groups that suffered, but other groups have had them looked at and with the experience of oppression and trauma. And the thing I told you guys about the whole survivor syndrome, it's very prevalent in second and third generations, and then it's passed on. The characteristics of the survivor syndrome is stress, self-doubt, problems with aggression, psychological issues, problems with interpersonal relationships, problems with family members and others. I am not saying any other race doesn't have these issues, but I am saying with us as African people, what do we struggle the most with? We struggle with unity. We struggle with unity. Why do we struggle with unity? This survivor syndrome. This survivor syndrome, right? Unity is something we struggle with. Can you see why? When he says to you the symptoms are having not being very good with interpersonal relations, problem with family members. We are so disunited within ourselves. Jamaicans hang out with Jamaicans. Congolese hang out with Congolese. If I move to another country, I will only hang out with a Zimbabwean because I'm Zimbabwean. Why do we do those things? Why don't we get to know each other? If I move to America and I come from Zimbabwe and I've lived in the UK, why can't I just see my sister who looks like me and say, my sister, how are you? Why? We are just reinforcing the divisions of the colonizers. We are still subjugated. The more we practice these things, we are still subjugated as people. But it amazes me when a white person arrives in the room, people suddenly have a lot to say. When people say you're cooning, you are performing. You are performing. The moment a white person enters a room, you have something to say. But when your own brother is in the room, you've got nothing to say. Guys, Africa is the only home we all have. It is the only place we can all escape to. Nowhere that we are all living in the diaspora or wherever we are living, if you're not living on the continent, nowhere we are living right now is home, because you are treated and constantly reminded that you are not safe, you are of no value, your life is no value, and we hate your kind of people. Only place we can all go to and actually belong to is Africa. But everyone who does and says all those things to us wants a piece of our home. They want to buy up all the land and resources. If we are not careful, we as Africans will have nowhere to run to, and we will actually end up as tenants in our own continent. The same energy we put into the jobs that we do where you're not paid that much, the people mistreat you, you hate going there, but guess what? You still wake up every day at 6 a.m. and you put in that effort. The same energy we are doing that to is the same energy we need to put into building a better Africa. Who is benefiting from us not being united? Who is benefit from us not talking to each other? It's them. But guess what? They have an economy. And guess what? They stick together. And guess what? They don't care about us. Guys, it is a progress. I understand that is a progress. But these things have got to happen. We've got to look at these things. If we look at colonization, colonization altered Africa and its history forever. You understand? The African mode of thought, pattern, cultural development, ways of life were forever impacted by the change in political structure brought by colonialism. We are a people who lived in kingdoms. The political structure does not belong to the African mentality. It does not belong to the African society. It does not belong to the African people. We were ruled in kingdoms. You came from a kingdom. You did not come from a political structure, a political party. Hence, look at Africa and our leaders. They can never grasp the political system. They are old fools just bumping each other's heads. Because why? It doesn't originate with us. Somebody came in and said, oh, here's a political system, take it, live with it. We don't know what to do with it. Hence, look at the state of the continent. Colonization completely changed. The African economy was significantly changed by colonization, slave trade. The process of imperialism and economic policies that accompanied colonization. Let me tell you, guys, who knows about the scramble of Africa? Who knows? Put your hands up in the chat if you know about the scramble of Africa. Put your hands up in the chat. Because the scramble of Africa is where a lot of our problems began. Scramble for Africa is where a lot of our problems began. Before the scramble for Africa, or, the official partition of Africa by European nations, African economies were advancing in every area, particularly in the area of trade. The aim of colonialism was to exploit the physical, human, and economic resources of any area to benefit the colonizing nation. European powers pursued this goal by encouraging the development of a commodity-based trading system, a cash crop agriculture system, and by building a trade network linking the total economic output of a region to the demands of the colonizing state. Everything that was produced in each region would go straight abroad, never stay in the local region for the local people. The development of colonialism and the partition of Africa and the European colonial powers arrested, completely deadened the natural development of the African economic system. It deadened it. Africa prior to this was not economically isolated from the rest of the world. We were not. African states engaged in international trade from time to time. Look at the pharaohs, the ancient Egypt. West Africa specifically developed extensive international trading systems, like areas like Ghana, Mali, Songhai. I think I've spoke about this in previous videos. These huge empires relied heavily on the taxing of foreign trade to finance government outgoings and everything. The wealth of these nations was dependent largely on the trade in gold, but also on the levy of customs, taxes, the booty from foreign expeditions, and fees associated with administrative offices. The one result of increase in international trade was the indigenous African economy became so subordinate to the interests of European. They came and they said, we have a demand. This is our demand. And what happened? We put that at the foremost, and African economy became the second, not the first priority of our people. The slave trade system did this by substituting European manufactured products for those products that would normally have been made locally. So now we were taking in European products instead of our own products. And guess what? We are still doing it today. Hence today we see people will say, oh, we farm this, but they sell it to somebody else, and then for them to eat it locally, they have to import it. It's so crazy. We see from history an early developing a pattern of Africa as a source of raw material in terms of labor, and only as a consumer. The results of such uneven trade is evident today. Even imports like textiles competed damagingly with local products, with the result that the technological gap of where we were as Africans, it stopped. Because you know why? Europeans were shipping firearms. That's what they did. And guess what? Whilst we were too busy doing that, what happened? And the European man told us, no, we need to do this. This is the demand. We were growing their industrial revolution. We were growing them. And guess what? We stopped our technology. We stopped so many things. And then we became a stagnant people. This pattern of unbalanced trade continued into the period of colonization and remains today. The economic goals of colonialism were simple: provide maximum economic benefit to the colonizing power and at the lowest possible price. The lowest possible price. Too much corruption. This effect of the Berlin Conference was partition Africa and let's do as much damage as we can. The British, the French, the Germans, the primary colonizing nations, The individual needs of their colonial subjects were not important. Us as Africans, whatever we needed locally, in whatever we needed, they said that doesn't matter. What we need to do, because they were starving over here. They were starving. They had no way to feed their people. Instead, what did the Europeans do? They, from start to finish, became the overriding goal of colonialism. Europe was still rapidly developing, and therefore it needed raw materials that Africa had to offer. Before the partition, European powers had to contend with the varying, African governments. They had to contend because African governments still exercised significant control over the economic development. They did. However, colonialism forced these nations to produce solely only for the export market, therefore keeping our prices low for the European consumers. And guess what? Making them cash rich. We were making them cash rich. Colonialism was not just about economic subjugation, but about the ability to have control of the local economy from African rulers, of which till today, guys, we are still in those conditions. We are still in those conditions. They took the power away under our people. African people were not allowed to improve their way of life, their way of making goods. They were forced into the colonial system. They insisted this. The colonizers insisted this. And guess what? We're still there. We are still there. Even farmers were forced. Local farmers were no longer able to decide for themselves what crops to grow or what resources to cultivate. Instead, the decision was made for them in a predetermined market. And guess where we are? We're still there today. Guys, who knows about the G8 summit? Who knows about the G8 summit? Because you know what? The scramble for Africa was done by these nations and no one African was there. And guess what? Today we have the G8 summit where no African leader or country is ever present. G8 is the biggest meeting for planning strategies for development and progress. And we are not at these meetings. No African leader, no African person, nobody that looks like us is at these meetings. So how do we know what's coming? How do we know they're not coming for us again? How do we know that? Because they plan everything and we're not there. We need to gather ourselves. Our self-esteem is so attached to all of these issues. You understand? It's called vacant esteem. Psychologically, they call it vacant esteem. It is the state of believing that you yourself have little or no worth, and then it's exasperated by inferiority. Vacant esteem is the result of the influence from society, our community, our family. Society influences us by institutions, laws, policies, and media. The communities we live in influence us. They influence us to establish what is the norm. They encourage us to conform to society at large. However your family conducts themselves is how you conduct themselves. When all these things come together, the vacant esteem tells us that as a people, we've not contributed anything. We've not done anything in history. The PTSD continues. It's transmitted from generation to generation through the family, community, and society. At this point, if we continue at this rate, we're still a subjugated people. We need to have our lands. In Europe, they join together in wars. If they say somebody wants to attack Germany, the UK will have no problem in going and bombing whoever it is. Why? They do it to maintain and protect white supremacy. Meanwhile, we are just here trying to get out of our own minds. Why? Because we are traumatized. We are traumatized as a people. Some of us get it. Some of us don't. If our minds are not right, how can we build a new Africa? How? Because everybody's running to say, Everybody's running to say, let's build this new Africa. But guys, if the mind is not right, if we don't work on our people's mentality, if we don't decolonize the mind, let me tell you, we're not going to build a new Africa. We are going to have the same base that we have now. We're going to have the same thing. Teach the children our history, that our children do not walk with their heads hanging low as if we have never contributed anything to this society. Learn about yourself. We need to stop searching for European education to give us freedom as a people. It won't. We can start a book club for those that are not great at being motivated. We cannot learn our history from the enemy, guys. We look around and we are told only Europeans and other people created everything, and us Africans didn't contribute anything. Go back and learn. Science, medicine, technology, it all started in Africa. They came, they saw, they were shocked, and they said, we've got to take from these people. And when we take from these people, we must never allow them to do what? To remember where they came from. Hence, when they took our children to America, they would say, mother, father, different places. They never stayed on the same place. Why? If they continued speaking the language, it would keep an identity. If we kept them together, they would be strong. Let me tell you something. Our children who were taken away from us into the Caribbean, wherever, they can't speak the languages. Why? Because people were sent to different places. It was a way of splitting us up, splitting the identity up, never finding out who you are. And the more they did that, the more people became distant. Being called a diasporan African does not mean you are not African. It just means you've been away from home for a longer time than other people. That is all it is. The diaspora term is what it is. They came, they learned, and they were shocked at our advancements and they stole it. The Greeks that you hear about, they learned from the Africans. We will solve a lot of issues if we learn about our history, guys. Books, books, books are vital. Read. I'm telling you right now, reading is the way you're gonna arm this. We can all sit down and go on different platforms and talk about, oh, we must do this, we must do that. It's never gonna work. It's never gonna work if we don't treat this. This is really, really important. I wanted to do this video just so that we can have a discussion about these things, to say the trauma has got to be acknowledged. It has to be acknowledged because a lot of our people do not acknowledge the trauma. We don't realize that there's actually traumas that have happened to us as a people. There is a lot of that trauma that has happened to us as a people. And we've really got to acknowledge it. We've got to heal from it. We really have to heal from it. With no healing, there's no point. Some of us could go ahead and start building this Africa. But you know what? With those wounds still in people, we're going to have the same base as the base we have right now. And then the next thing you know, we're going to say, oh, where are we going wrong? Where are we going wrong? Because the status quo is still the same. People are still burning. People are still trying to heal. Look at the way they treat us wherever we are. The only place that is home for us is Africa, to be honest. I'm open for questions now. I'm open for anyone that wants to chat. I'm just going to drop the link if anybody wants to jump in onto the live as well and add on. But what does everybody think about what we're saying? What does everybody think? So I've just dropped the link into the chat. Anybody can come in and yeah, let's just have a discussion and talk about, these traumas. What does everybody think? People are feeling very traumatized. It's not a joke. The diasporan children are very traumatized. The people that are in Africa are traumatized. Another thing that I probably forgot to mention is one of the reasons why we probably Um, Hi,
Hey, hello.
how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for joining.
Well, thank you for having me on. So, my name is Dukley. I'm calling from the U.S. So, I saw you on the Woody Maya show,
Yes,
and you make some exciting points. And I thought, your ideas align with what I'm thinking. So, sometimes people come on and they give their channels. I'm not gonna follow everybody because, like you
yes,
said earlier, some black people aren't black people enough. They are not carrying it. They are not the same. They don't think the same way you and I were thinking. So
exactly.
some are brainwashed. Some are. They just have different agenda.
Hmm.
So the first thing you said was, not only am I trying to go back, but I'm already in. I've got this plan. I've got that plan. I'm not just talking about this. I'm
That's it.
doing it. So I've been here for 15 years.
Okay.
So I'm from Liberia. I usually try to go back. I went back last year actually. We were back there for almost 3 months. So it
Wow.
was exciting.
How did
And
you
I
feel?
and I decided. So this is really hot in Arizona. So that's the reason why I'm outside. It says I'm in the backyard. But so like I was saying, we once we got there, I made up my mind. I said, listen, I'm coming back. This is it for me. I'm ready to make the move. I'm coming back. So before we went, we were able to build a house, and then I've got some other plans that I'm working on. The move is set to happen next year, and
Wow.
so so I'm really excited to talk to people like-minded people, and so when you talk about the aftermath of slavery
Hmm.
and what really happened to Africans. And can we just put a bandage on and say, hey, just go ahead, you're healed. It's nothing. It's okay. You're fine. Just go. Do we have to do it's a process that we have to go through like everybody else.
Yes.
So if you look at Africa and the continent as a whole, before we gain our independence, right? We said
Hmm.
we said we're independent now. We're happy. We have our independence. Are we really independent? That's the
No.
questions I want to ask. Because the West made sure before they give you that we're independent, because you were in the house, they put you locked down and said you're not free. But
Yes.
now before they let you go, they made sure they put a shackle on your legs and they put a shackle around your waist, and it's okay. The door's open now. You're free to go.
But you can't go anywhere.
You can't. You're running now. You falling down like okay, well you're free, my friend. What are you talking about? You're free.
Exactly.
So they imprison the mind, and then they imprison your economic as well.
Yes. That's
So
why I touched on those two aspects on here. I said, do the mind and economic.
right. So we don't control our own economic. If you have gold, you don't sell gold. You can't go to the international market and say, here's the gold, but I'm selling at this price. No, they set the price in New York. They
Yes.
set the price of commodities in the international market. They said, first of all, you are not the owner of it. Why are you the one responsible to set the price of it? But we agreed to all of that, right? We just said,
Yes.
you know what, we are first our money that we have, the money that we use in Liberia, surprisingly enough, US dollar. It's almost the most popular currency accepted.
Zimbabwe is the same.
So we're giving power to international money to our system than our own money. If you have one US dollar compared to almost 200 of the Liberian dollar,
Mm.
why is that? Why is that? So we're giving so much power. So these people make sure before they give us that independence, they took away the power to be free, and they put puppet leaders in place.
Yes.
And these people aren't working for you and I. Our interest
No.
is not in their mind. So they are working in the interest of the West. So the West said do this, they jump. They say, dance to this music. They say, how
They
long do you
do
want me to
it.
dance? So it's just a matter of people portraying to be African, but they're not really African
They're
because
not
they're not
African.
working. Yeah. So, and that's the same here in the U.S. When they say, okay, you guys are free, freedom, slaves are free. You guys are free to do everything. So, I was lucky when I got here in America. I focused on certain things, and so
Mhm.
I was a police officer on the streets.
Okay.
And so I remember sitting at the station and um, talking, and my boss, who is very highly intelligent, and we so sometimes shooting happens, people get killed.
Mhm.
Sometimes is their fault. Sometimes it's the police fault. It's not. It's America. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's just the way we are, and so we have to try to figure out how to balance that, because you can't blame one side, because sometimes the criminals involved, and sometimes the law are at fault. So you just
Mhm.
can't make a judgment and say, okay, this is completely wrong without looking at individual.
Exactly.
So we were
You're
talking
asking
about.
about what I'm to do. Do you think everybody who's gonna come is not gonna be a criminal?
Right, right. So we were talking about this, and then my boss was like, okay, well, why are you complaining about slavery? You were never a slave. I mean, your generation was never a slave, and you came from Africa. Look at you now. You were able to accomplish this and this, and these people are lazy. Majority of Black people are lazy. So just acknowledge it. So it was shocking to me, but I know that's how many people here think. So you're not surprised of what they're saying, because you just know that
No.
it's in their mind. It's a
Mm.
perception. They already
Yes.
have the perception. They're not, whatever you say, it's not going to change their mindset. They have not been in their shoes. They would never be in their shoes. You can just try to talk to them. And I said, okay, you want to open this can of worm? I'm open for it. You're the boss, but I'm not going to back down with this argument. And we started going. He was like, well, I grew up in this family. I had to fight my ways up. I was poor. My parents were poor.
They
I got
think
to
it's
where.
the same. They think it's the same.
And I say, no, it's not the same. It's a generational wealth. You were able to go to school. Probably your parents sent you to school tax free. And some people, they say in school are free, right? They can't go to school until they get in debt.
Mm.
They have to take loans to go to school. Your parents sent you to school, and if you graduate, you get the same amount of salaries, right? But they have to pay 40% of their salary to the creditors.
Exactly.
How are you guys going to be the same? And I said, you're not looking at the residual effect of the slavery, and they don't want to hear that word slavery. So
They don't
there's so
want to
many
hear
things.
it.
There's so many things that they don't want to hear. And I said, okay, for example, in America, they say, okay, Black people, you guys are free, and but here's the thing. I just saw a documentary. If you haven't seen it, please do. It's called The 13th.
Oh,
Um,
I have. I have.
yeah, so see what I'm saying? So we think it's like you look for information that relate to what it's really affecting you,
Yes.
and even though we're free, but that word criminal, it's not slavery anymore. It's been replaced by criminal.
Criminal.
And in the U.S.,
And the
less than
jails
50.
and the jails are now the plantation.
Absolutely right. So instead of in the U.S., Black people, probably less than 15% of the population, almost 40% of the prison population, almost
I know.
40%.
I know.
So if you're less than 15%, how do you almost equate to half of the prison population?
this is the thing, and they say, oh, Black Americans have the highest level of diseases and this and that, and I think they make 10% of the population. How?
So we really have to, all the points we're making here, it's very touchy, because
I
once you start talking about it, you may not get followers, because people say, well, she's on the extreme side of everything, because she talks about, it's hate speech, so to speak.
You know
Because
what?
yeah,
We're advocating for Africa.
exactly.
We're advocating for people on a true level.
Exactly. So you have to speak your truth, and believe in what you believe in. And
That's it.
and right now there are so many people that are so-called woke, and
I hate that word, man.
I know.
Oh,
And they think they watch a YouTube video, and I said, listen, I was born in Africa, and when you said earlier, why don't we mingle with other people? Why don't we communicate with other Africans just because they are not from our country? And that the boundaries are just imaginary. We can break those boundaries, but the boundaries in our mind is permanent until we decide to break it down. And so a lot of people tell me, well, you're African, but you don't have a lot of African American friends. I have some friends, but it's usually work, because we do things in common, because unfortunately you make friends with people that are like-minded. It's a birds of the same feather flocks together. So if you're doing this and I can't do that, I'm not saying you're criminal, but if you're doing certain things I'm not I'm
comfortable.
not comfortable with doing, I'm not going to be around that. So
Yes.
it's just the same. But we have to reach out. We have to reach out, as far as, don't let religion to be part of the differences, nationality, ethnicities. All these things have to be broken down. So I completely agree with the points you're making, and we have to get over that hump and say, listen, we're Africans, and it's time for us to take over Africa. And it cannot. I'm telling you, when I went back to Africa, not only China, but Lebanese are taking over. They're buying all these lands,
Yes.
and a lot of the hotels, most of the higher establishments are owned by foreigners. It's we have to go and try. I don't care if it's a little bit of money. You have to go buy land. It's not that much. Like I said, I've been here for almost 15 years, and people tell me, well, you got a good job. Why don't you buy a house? Well, I live in a house, but I'm not buying it. I'm not
I said
buying
it
it.
the other day.
No, I'm not
Buy
buying a house.
land in Africa.
I'm not buying, because a lot of my friends, right? Actually, a friend of mine just bought a house, and it's a huge house. It's like 5 bedrooms, huge, brand new, probably at 200,000 or 250,000. He can't afford it, but it's all credit, right? So he's gonna be in shackle for the next 25 years or
It's
40 years.
another form of slavery.
So when people say, well, I'm living in a house, I've got a car in America, the lifestyle, how come many people are suffering now because of the corona? Because the standard they portray out there, they've got brand new Mercedes and BMWs, they've got houses, all these things are credits.
I know.
And now that they can't pay for it, it's going to get tolled or impounded. So you live a higher life, but you can't afford it. So and they say, I'm not, this is what I said, that the house I built in Africa, it's mine. And it could be 100 years. I don't care. It's not the White House, but that's mine. And I'm not paying any taxes. As far as every month I have to pay all my income on it, that's not what's going to happen.
Yes.
And the land I bought in Monrovia, even though it costs a little bit of fortune, but I'm telling you, it's mine for my life for life.
We're gonna do a session. I hope in the next week, how to buy land in Africa.
Okay, okay. Well, that's also a very, very critical subject because if
Yes,
you don't send your money to the rightful person, you may
that
be
is it.
regretting. Yeah, you may be
That's why.
regretting.
That's why we want to talk about it.
Yes. So
Because it's a level of naivety where people think you can just do it, and it's like it's a fantasy. It's
yeah.
not. We
So
gotta
it's
guide our people. You know. No, I really appreciate you coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
okay. I know you probably have some people that wants to come on and
Yes,
share that.
coming in.
Yeah. So I really love your mindset. I love
Thank
your
you.
story. I love your energy,
Thank you.
and I love the direction that you want us to go as African. And and like I said, just keep doing what you're doing because some people will say, well, you're just making more division. When you talk about
No,
black people, you created more division, but we want to talk about us because
we have to.
no one's fighting for us. And coming from somebody that's been in law enforcement, it's hard because they look at you as racist, like, well, it's, but I'm not. It's just
It's for
certain things
us.
yes, I have to do something for myself because it's self love. It's not hatred for other people. So
No,
so I'm gonna be sitting and watching your show, and
thank you.
and hopefully, I will get back on some other time
Drop
and
me an email.
yes.
Because I would use your skills for the land situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a show and you guys are talking about life in America, as far as people from the diaspora, because I was born and raised in Africa, even
Mm-hmm.
though I've been here for a little bit, but I have the experience of being an African and also being here in America. The states
Exactly.
that I live in is mostly populated with people that don't look like me and you. So I completely understand, and if they have questions as far as how African Americans or diaspora Africans, and I may be able to to answer some questions, or I'm gonna refer to some friends to your channel too as well, and see if they can subscribe to your channel. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Hi guys. I don't know where the echo was coming from. I'm really sorry. Um, I didn't have an echo last time. I don't know whether it's because he was on his phone. Let me try and add another person and we'll see. Hi. Thank you so much. I saw you coming in and out. Thank you so much for staying on. Hi Takunda, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Sis. I'm in mostly at Tunya. I mean, the one that we call Victoria Falls, but which I
Oh,
don't like the name.
of course,
Uh,
Mosia Junior. Yes. Oh wow. I love Victoria Falls. I love Victoria Falls. Is that where you live?
yeah, that's where I live. Yeah, currently we are under a lockdown. Anyway, it's right now. Yeah.
Everybody's on
I
lockdown.
love the point where yeah. Okay. What did I do? Okay,
Take
hold
your
on.
time.
Sorry. Yeah, yeah. I love the point when I saw you speaking Handa, which I didn't know the history. I saw your video there. I was like, what? And then I tried to, like, where can I get the book? I sent you an email, and I'm into really African history. And then actually, we when we grew up, we're being told like, everything that is in Africa is witchcraft and all stuff and also. But now when I was going into more research, I end up
Yes.
understanding who are the true Israelites, who are the real Jews, where the Bible actually, like here in Zimbabwe. And then I talked to another guy who is a military guy. He said long time back they discovered the piece of Ark of the Covenant in Mashonaland there in
Yes.
near Great Zimbabwe, all those
Uh-huh.
stuff. And then I said, every time we didn't say that, but also the Roman Catholic Church played a big
In
role
divisions,
in our
divisions,
life.
divisions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Division, that mental division. That's painting that picture, that Jesus picture, white. And then every time when you see a white person, I always tell my colleagues, like when a black comes by, uh, in the white person, they will give more attention sometimes to a white
Yes,
than.
exactly. Yeah,
I don't
I
know
said
if you've
that earlier on.
experienced that.
People always do that. Why? I don't know. I actually don't know why people do that. And the other thing is, as you said, like this portraying this Jesus as somebody who's going to save us. He's not coming to save anybody. Nobody's coming to save us. They left us with these things to just dumb us down. We'll never question anything and we'll
Yeah,
continue the way that we are going and nothing will ever change. And the moment you say, I want to change the narrative, oh no, you're being a racist. You're being so anti this, you're being anti other people. But the status of our people favors other people, not us.
yeah. You know, and like my boss is Kazakhstan Jewish. Like she tried to talk to me like 2 years ago. She said, Victor, you should go back to your basic roots, blah 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 blah. And then I was into this doctrination of being a Christian, and then I ignored him and said, no, she's trying to brainwash him. But she's really a white lady, but she really told me, but she didn't want to go further and tell me about how the Catholic Church
The roots are
used the
important.
Bible. Yeah, how the Catholic Church used the Bible to invade, how they send military all the way, mercenaries and all the stuff. Now, when you're working in tourists, you get to see Freemasons, people who are Freemasons, they get to tell you some stuff because they are more they're on holiday. They tell you the things that they took, those ancient texts, actually they took them
They
here in
stole
Africa.
everything.
Like
They
in,
stole everything.
and I was like, really? He said, yes, you Africans, you don't know how to write, you know how to read,
We
and
were the
also we
first
were so
people to do
amazed.
all of that.
Yeah. And I was like, you are hearing this from a white man. He's saying, you guys, we were amazed how you built the Munomotapa Empire. And then
Yes,
they told me that the Munomotapa Empire was covering the whole southern Africa.
it was.
I was like,
Great Zimbabwe. I'm doing a series, so I've got another series coming up. I don't know if obviously you listened to Mbiane Hana. That was my Queen series. I'm doing an African
yeah,
King series. It starts tomorrow. Then I'm going to do Kingdoms, Africa's Kingdoms. And Great Zimbabwe
wow.
covered the whole of Southern Africa. Zimbabwe, Great
Yeah,
Zimbabwe, the kingdom, Monomatapa, it covered the whole of Southern
yeah,
Africa. That's how big of a kingdom it was. And there's other things
wow.
that I'm going to discuss and that are going to come out, but it's really, really interesting. I love that you're from Zimbabwe, calling from Zimbabwe. Yeah.
I know. Even we are doing that. I know. But I was so interested. I was like, where is the book of Mbiane? Because you can't get it anywhere. I tried actually, and also the
And they cut off
Kanini guys.
and they cut off the heads. They cut off the heads. They executed Mbiyanehanda. They took
Ah,
their heads, brought them to Europe.
from the British.
Mbiyanehanda, Sekuru Kaguvi, all those heads are still in museums. The reason why they brought them over is they wanted to see how the medium saw into the future. Our ancestors,
Yes,
how could they do
and
that?
it's very significant to our land, and it's very so important. I was like, when I was now digging into history now, that's when I get to say, hey, we've been fed. It's like our story, they whitewashed it and they fed it back to us.
Yeah,
I don't know
they
if you
really
have
did.
watched
And that's why we
Mental.
say we are traumatized people. We are very traumatized.
Yes,
And we might not
yes,
want to have that conversation and say, oh, we can all just move on and start building this new Africa and stuff. No, as people, we're actually traumatized for hundreds of years, and we've got to address that. The only way we can actually heal ourselves is going into history, looking back into history, and going, what
yes,
were my people capable of? And that's the only way you're going to realize, wow, we are amazing.
yes. And here in or close to Wanga National Park, I was actually surprised when I was talking to one guy who was saying there's a place where they used to do pots, iron pots. Yeah, there's a place where they used to do iron pots. And then I was like, really? Yes. And then another Canadian who is actually a Native American Indian, she came long time ago during '92, and then she told me that we discovered that you guys you had mines in Mashonaland, you were mining gold.
Yes, they were
And then I was
mining.
like, really? I was like, and I grew up knowing that the Europeans is civilized that, but no, it's the other way around. And then he told me that this culture of ancient Egyptian, like of burying kings in gold
Yes.
caskets, in Monomo Empire, it's only that that state racial medium. The British tried to the coins. Actually, two British people died down there when they tried to go and seize those caskets. I heard that story. It's a white man telling me that a Native American Indian is like maybe mixed breed, whatever. But he was explaining that you guys you should go back to the root and you want to prosper. That's where there's your healing. That's where there's the
That's where
whole
our healing
ideology.
is.
And then yeah,
It
and I
really
started
is.
digesting. Yeah, I started digesting and watching shows like YouTube shows like she's from UK, she's
Yes.
a Jamaican from UK, and then
Yes.
Dr. Mundi, yeah, and then there's another one in Ghana, she's called Ancestor Jew. And then I don't know, Credo Muntra.
No.
Credo Muntra. You should watch. It's a video. It's about 6 hours. He explains about these reptilian entities, what, and everything.
Oh,
I think
yes.
you need.
We're gonna get into that
No,
onto this channel. We're gonna get into all of that stuff on this channel. Because with me, I'm all about moving forward. Yes, I'm doing my own, I'm doing
yeah,
stuff. I'm actively doing things myself back home and everything. But I'm also very much involved in the healing of the people. And with me, it's to do with history. So we're gonna talk about African deities, our gods. We're going to cover that on here because some people are not good
yeah,
at reading. Some people are not motivated into reading and stuff. And it's okay if somebody has a platform and I can do it, why not share? I'm at the moment I'm building a
yeah,
website. I'll let you guys know I'm building a website where I'll be doing the reading, like what you heard with the Nembuya Nehanda. I'll be doing that, and the
yes,
kids can go on there and learn. It will be an interactive platform
yeah,
where the kids can go and learn history, everything. Adults can go and learn on that. I'm just working on that at the moment. That is one thing I'm working on
yeah.
to make sure that there's a platform for us to learn about ourselves. And with me, where I don't discriminate. I don't care where you come from. The labels of you are Rwandese, you're Zimbabwean, they came from the colonizers. We didn't know any of that stuff. We never had any of that
Because
stuff.
Ambassador Chombori said, when a person was sleeping in the Malawian lake and in Zambia, when he woke up in the morning, he I'm now in Malawi, I'm now in Zambia. But we used to migrate, we need to mingle all those stuff and such me like my grandmother gave back to my mom, she's Motswana, and then grandfather gave back to my dad,
Wow.
Aaron, and then I'm so the whole empire. And I really, and also I would love to sign a petition to change the name of Victoria Falls because what happens is he who names will stay in dominion of. I don't know African leaders do know. I really don't know that and I was reading in spiritual terms. That's when now I'm trying to cut all GMO. Since this year, that's helping me a lot because I'm no longer eating. I'm coming vegan. I want to go back to the basics. Able to hear to spiritually. I know it's easy. When I
No, you're
found like
doing great. You're doing great. You're doing amazing. I love how excited you
yeah,
are about the history. Like you're finding out. You're like, wow, this is so exciting. I've just dropped the link again in the
yeah,
chat, guys. If anyone wants to come on as well, I've just dropped the link in the chat.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's
So I
great.
think
I'm excited for you.
this is and the more I was into research, I end up researching that long time like kings they used to go like the issue of gold. Gold is used in a lot of things. It's not only used in technology or just stockpiling it. Actually, gold it's medicinal also as well.
Yes, it is medicinal.
You know that
Yes. Yes.
you can even actually melt it and do like, but there are people who know like monatomic gold. And
Yes.
those things here in Africa. Those things.
We
When I
have
go, when
we
I
have
go,
we have everything. We have everything. It's everybody else who realizes it, except for us, the Africans. We don't realize it, which is so
yeah.
crazy. Everyone else realized what we
Because
have, but we didn't realize what we did know, but
and then the richest man in the world in Mali, the richest black person ever lived,
yes,
Musa
Mansa
Muntu.
Musa, Mansa
Yeah,
Musa, Mansa
Masa
Musa.
Musa, yes. And
His wealth was
and
incredible.
I was like, and he's the first, the Malian, they're the first people actually to sell like with ships into the Americans, into all these islands in all these islands all these islands. I was like, and I didn't know that. And people they really confess because where like black people they are, and especially black women. This is where I began to learn like black women are mothers of all civilization or all
Yes,
races.
we are.
Like if you, I didn't
We are
know.
mothers of
When I
all
was going
people.
deep now,
You
yeah,
know,
I've heard it's like
it's
when you
great to
now
know
need
you're
to know
I
the
love your
truth.
excitement. You're so excited. It's so infectious. We need to have you back. We need to have you back. We've got to have you back on
I'm
here.
gonna be back. Definitely, I'm gonna be back. I was like, wow, I didn't know this. Hey, I didn't know the funny. No, even the wild people they come like lions, cheetahs, elephants that you come to interact with and stay beside. All these animals they ask like,
Yes.
and then the person who makes all the Benjamins, it's not an African. So there's a lot of potential that we have. It's just that we don't know how powerful we are as black people. That's one thing.
Yes.
We don't know how powerful we are. But as you are like we are interacting with this platform before they shut it down. But I think we are beginning to know ourselves. I mean,
Things
just
are changing. Things are really changing. Yeah, things are really
yeah,
changing.
things are really, yeah.
Things are
So when I saw that, maybe yeah, you should watch that video. You should watch that video. But
no.
I'll try to send you a link
Send me a
of
link.
the Credo Munta.
My email's on my channel, so just send me an email on there.
Send you a link, and then send you a link of Credo Munta, I think.
Yes.
And then and, and we are the greatest astronomer, like the Dogon tribe.
We
They
are
are the greatest
astronomy
astronomers.
came from Africa. Astronomy came from Africa.
Yeah.
Astrologers are
Actually, when
African.
they came, I was like, two friends went there 50 years ago, and then they gained the trust from the Dogon tribe, and then they told these French people like there's a certain planet in this place. The
Yes.
scientists like NASA and all they haven't discovered it. Catching up to 15, 20 years they discovered that planet.
We need people
Even the
like you.
Dogon
We need
tribe
people
came
like
there.
you everywhere. You know that. You need to be a teacher in the school that I'm doing. You need to be a teacher. So listen, Takunda, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming to get
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I don't want to take. Yeah, no problem. I don't want
We
to
need,
take too
we
long, but
need
I'm
teachers
buying
like
also
you,
books.
you
I'm
know?
hoping it go down goes up because I bought some books like in USA like of the I don't know Auntie Jack Dioppa. Auntie Jack
Mhm.
Dioppa he talks about the civilization of Africa, but it's coming, and then I got to see, and then I get
We need
excited. I
teachers
don't want
like
to take
you.
this. Yeah, I don't want to take this time for other people. I know maybe
I know there's
other
people
people
want to
want to
come
also
in.
comment and yeah. All right, no
Oh, thank
problem.
you so
Definitely
much.
gonna send you a link.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you so much,
Yes, yes.
Takunda. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. So, we as Africans knew all sorts of systems of healing using sound to heal. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up because I go to sound healing baths myself. I've been to quite a lot in the last year. And a lot of people don't realize that sound healing in Africa it's very powerful. It goes into your chakras. It goes into your consciousness. It's amazing. I actually go to a lot of sound baths myself. That's a great point. We use healing sound to heal different herbs to elevate your mind or heal the body. Exactly. All these medications that they say to us, oh, we've learned this, it all came from Africa. Everybody's grandmother has got a PhD. When I was in Zimbabwe, I used to have this thing where when it used to get cold, I would come up in like these hives and like it would look like somebody absolutely like went to town on my face. And I remember my grandmother saying to me, go to the neighbors, you see that tree with the yellow flowers, just boil that for 3 days and bathe in it. And I never listened. I didn't listen to her. Obviously, the condition got worse and worse. And then I thought, let me just go and ask these people for this. I went and got it. I bathed in it for 3-4 days. She helped me bathe in it. And she would just boil these yellow flowers. And I've never had the condition ever again. It's like a blood thing that I had, like a blood disorder that I had. And I've never had that thing before. I now live in the UK. I grew up here where it's cold and I've never had that condition ever again. So yeah, we have everything in Africa. The thing is, our history is very much attached for us ever moving forward. We can talk and talk and talk and talk and sit and talk about all the plans in the world and say, oh, I would really love us to do this. I would really love us to do this. It's never going to happen if we are just not learning about who we are from the past. Because for us to build a glorious Africa, we need to recognize the glory of African people and our history. Without it, better just sit down and just continue the ride as it is, Does anybody else want to join the chat, or that is okay? Because if not, I'm just going to end the live stream in a minute. And I really enjoyed new people, Caroline, everybody, the new people that came in and called, our brother in America from Liberia. Thank you so much. Takunda, everybody who's new on the channel. I'm so excited to have you on here. And yeah, let's have this journey. As I said, I'm trying to build a platform right now where I go and I do the recordings that I have and talk about our history, the kings, the kingdom, all of that. And I want it to be a place where children can go and learn, and adults can also go and learn about history, because I think it's really important for us to do that. Just before we go, I actually want for you guys to, I think on every live stream or every video that I'm doing, I'm going to try and promote Black businesses. Some of us are addicted to Netflix. I'm just saying some of us, I don't have Netflix anymore. I am encouraging you guys to please go and subscribe to Kweli TV. Kweli TV is a Black Netflix. It is amazing. I am now subscribed to Kweli TV. Kweli TV literally has the same subscription basis as Netflix. It's a little bit cheaper. And if you subscribe to Kweli TV, this is their link. Kweli TV, go and subscribe on Kweli TV. It is an amazing platform. When you subscribe, what happens is the creators that are all Black creators, they get paid through our subscriptions, and there's amazing content on there, because a lot of people complain of not seeing anybody that looks like us on content. There are platforms being created by our own people. We need to go and support them. Kweli TV is like a Netflix. I have unsubscribed to Netflix and I have joined Kweli TV, and the content is amazing. Kweli TV is great. Are you planning on doing another session? That would be good. More people will come. Yes, we've got a live on Tuesday. I don't want to bombard you too much with too many lives. A live on Tuesday where we're talking about African women. What is our role as African women in the future of Africa, this Africa that we want to build? What is our role as women? You know, we've got to have that discussion, because women are the people that lead the nations. We are the mothers, we are the birthers, we are the people that rear the children. This topic has got to be discussed, because maybe some of our sisters don't know what they should be doing. Maybe some of our sisters are like, maybe they are sisters who want to advise other sisters and say, in this process, as we go through it, this, and I want to call out all my strong African sisters worldwide. Come on this live and let's talk. And the men, we want you to come as well, because I know the men that are supporting this whole movement, they are very happy for women to be heavily involved in this. So we want you as well involved. It is our discussion as our people, because we have to build each other, you know. Hi, Tendai. Perfect. Yes, Caroline, subscribe to Quelly TV. Subscribe to Quelly TV, guys. It's phenomenal. It's a really great show. It's a really great platform. And another person we're going to promote on here is Wodemaya. I have just dropped Wodemaya's Patreon. Go and subscribe to Wodemaya's Patreon. Please, please support Wodemaya. Wodemaya has brought a lot of you over here to my platform. I love that brother, and nearly on every video that I do, I talk about Wodemaya because I love what he's doing. Please go and subscribe to his Patreon. $5, $1 a month will help Wodemaya with everything he wants to do. He wants to build certain things for us, you know. Tendai, that's my channel. Okay, guys, go follow Tendai. That would be fantastic. You teach African civilization. Fantastic. That's amazing. I love that. That is fantastic. This is what we need, because people don't realize without African civilization, there would be no civilizations in the world. They would be. We are the people who started the civilizations. So please go and subscribe to Wodemaya's Patreon. And the last person we are going to as well support, because we've got to support each other. I can't sit up here and say support Black people and I don't do it myself. We've got to be actively doing it. I don't know if any of you watch Young Pharaoh on YouTube. I love Young Pharaoh, what he's doing. He has this platform. I've just dropped the link. I've dropped the link for Wodemaya's Patreon in there. Click on it and subscribe to his Patreon. I've also dropped the link. I've dropped the link to Wodemaya's Patreon. It's in the chat, guys. It's in the chat. Wodemaya's Patreon, please go and support it. And yes, because if we don't support each other, there's no foundation for this new Africa we're all loving and dreaming about. We've got to support each other. There is another brother, Young Pharaoh. He is building a platform he has the platform. It's called the Black Woman is God Stores. If you're a Black business owner and you do not have a website, or you're a Black business owner and you want to be on a platform where collectively there is other Black entrepreneurs, go and register on the Black Woman is God Stores, and you will have a platform on there. It's for free. He's not charging anybody. So if you're a new business and you want advertisement, he's doing that. Go and register the Black Woman is God Stores. It is a great platform. Click on the link. I have dropped the link in there. So 3 people, right? Quelly TV, let's drop Netflix. Guys, if we stop putting money in their pockets, if we stop putting money in their pockets and put money in our own pockets, our own people's pockets, people will start to respect us. People will start listening and they'll see that there's a change going on. The more we sit on Netflix and we're not subscribing to places like Quelly TV can, what is the purpose? Support Quelly TV. Wodemaya, I've dropped the link to Wodemaya's Patreon. Go and support Wodemaya. I'm just gonna go through the, yes, let's support all that are building a better Africa. Yes, that is it. Wonderful, Mulambo. Thank you so much. Wonderful. and I'm launching my site on the 1st of June. It's called Worker Bee. Right, Caroline, I know you're a teacher. You're a teacher, aren't you? Could you, once that is done, could you send us a link so we can also have everybody come onto your platform? Please do that, sister. I would really appreciate that. She's launching her own site on the 1st of June. It's called Worker Bee. Worker Bee is an online trusted marketplace platform that bridges the gap between those who want to learn, and that's it. Sisters teaching people, that's it. This is what we need. This is the collective that we need. See, people are doing action. I love the action. This is what I love. Fantastic, Caroline. Caroline has signed up. Caroline has signed up. So guys, make sure you do that. You know, Kweli TV, Wodamaya, and the Black Woman is God. Make sure you go and click on those links and check it out, because there are actually people out here who are just not coming and talking and talking and talking, because we are tired of the talking. People are actually actively doing things. The brother from Liberia, he's bought land, he's built a house in Liberia. You know, we can all do it, but what I don't want to encourage is people to just move from the diaspora. Hence, I said next week, hopefully, I can do an episode or a live show where we talk about how to buy land and invest land in Africa, because it is not a fantasy. It is not a joke to just rush over and do things. We don't want to set people up for failure. So I want to bring on people. I've got friends who've done it. I myself have done some stuff. We're going to come together and say, guys, this is the advice we could give you on how to do this. And then from there, there's other things I'm working on. I've teamed up with some amazing people since Wodamaya's when I was on Wodamaya's platform, actually, people that I've teamed up with, and we're already working on projects. Guys, nothing is stopping us from working together. And there's incredible people with incredible ideas. Yes, we need to ask him. We need to ask him. Yes. Our brothers and sisters abroad, you know, who are in America, the UK, everywhere, Caribbean, they might not know how to go about us buying land and stuff like that. We've got to advise each other. We can't gaslight each other and say, just get up and leave and go and buy land, go and move to. We can't gaslight each other. This excitement, we've got to mold it. We've got to use it wisely. So yes, people want to go and do all of that, but we don't want people to get scammed. We don't want people to then go there and it's a total failure. We want to set each other up as a nation. A nation what? Grows. A nation just doesn't crumble. So that is why I want to have that session when we talk about how to buy land, the process. You know, you need to visit the place you want to go and live. You can't just land on an aeroplane and do things, you know, immaturely. You've got to do things properly. And we want to have a place where we can help people do that. So hopefully next week I will have a session where we talk about how to buy land, how to do certain things back home. You know, it's really important that we talk about these things, and we need to get off certain platforms. So we are working on that too, because somebody is definitely writing all this stuff down. Let me tell you that we're not the only ones watching. But yeah, Caroline, please, Worker Bee. We're excited about this. Send me a link and everything once this is launched. Guys, we'll need to support her, okay? We'll need to support her because she wants to teach our people. So I'm very excited about this. And thank you for everybody who joined the live and everybody else who's going to see this afterwards. Thank you so much. I really enjoy these lives, you know. I really enjoy them. And I hope I see you guys again. And have a good evening, or wherever you are, morning, afternoon, it's evening over here in the UK. So thank you so much, guys. Make sure you go and support the links that I sent you, Wodamaya, Kweli TV, and Young Pharaoh. Go and support those links that I sent you, yeah? Thank you so much. Take care, guys. Good night. Bye.